Hey, what's up guys? It's Pedro here from noobcoder.com, and in this tutorial we're going to be talking about variable types. Now in the previous tutorial we talked about creating variables, however we did not get into detail about the various types of data that you can store inside a variable in JavaScript. And we're going to find out by getting some help from the type of operator. So let's start off with something that we're all familiar with. So I'm going to create a variable called x and give it a value of Pedro. Semicolon. And now I want to use the type of operator. Now what the type of operator is if I give it something, in this case I'm going to give it x, is going to return what the type of x is. So I'm just going to type of and then pass in x. Now we want to print it onto the console so we can see what's happening. So I'm going to type console.log then semicolon, Control S to save. Then I'm going to hit Control B, right click, index.html, F12, and you can see that's saying, hey, this is a string, okay? So it shouldn't be a surprise. Control B again. That Pedro is a string. But what are the other types in JavaScript? Now, before we get into that, I just want to mention that JavaScript is a dynamically typed language, meaning that I don't have to declare its type when declaring variables. It also allows me to reuse this x variable and assign it a type that's different from string. So for instance, if I say x is equal to 1, semicolon, this is perfectly allowed. In a statically typed language, you can't do that, but since this is JavaScript, I can hold a string and we're going to find out what 1 is. So I'm just going to say console.log type of, pass it in x, and let's see what we get this time. So I'm going to hit Control S to save, go to my browser, hit the refresh, and you can see that 1 is a number. So let's head over back to our editor. Now let's just change this slightly. Let's just say if I give it a decimal instead of a number, let's say 1.2. Control S to save, go back to my browser, refresh. You can see that it's still a number. So now we know what a string is and we know what a number is. So let's try something else. Let's say I give x and I say, is it equal to true? Now I'm just going to copy this, save some time instead of pasting it. Instead of typing it, I mean. Control V, Control S, go back to my browser, hit refresh, and you can see that true is the type Boolean. So if I go back, if there's a true, there's probably a false. So I'm just going to type false, Control S to save, go back to the browser, hit refresh, and you can see false is a Boolean type. So let's head over back to my editor. And this time we are going to declare a variable called y, but we're not going to give it a value. I'm going to hit Control S to save, Control V, and this time instead of testing what x is, I'm going to test what y is. So I'm going to go back to my browser, hit refresh. You can see that it has the value of undefined. And that's because I haven't assigned a value to it. And last but not least, we're going to be talking about null. So I'm going to say y is assigned the value of null, semicolon, Control V. And just to take a minute, what null is how you represent nothing in a programming language. Now this isn't JavaScript specific. Many other languages use null to represent nothing. So if I head over to my browser after I save, Control S, Go to Chrome, hit refresh, and you can see that it's actually returning an object, but most people consider that an error. What it really is a primitive. So in fact, all these types here are considered primitives. So a string is a primitive, number, Boolean, undefined, and even null.